Boom, Chich, we're back at it, baby.
Let's go. We're on a roll.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good, healthy, happy,
man.
excited for this show.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. I think the one thing I love about our show, which I've loved in all the episodes that we've done, is you and I have our opinions about things, and I think our guests have their own opinions, about things, and we're able to really our guests can express ourselves, we express ourselves, and that's why it's the mayor's office. So it's a great time for all of us.
Absolutely, and this one's going to be absolutely crazy.
This is gonna be a good one this week, man. This is gonna be a good one this week. I had so much stuff on this guy. I was like, all right, I can't say it all. It's so ridiculous, but I'm gonna try right out the gates. 216 and 146 career record, right? All-time leader in modern era. Ks to walks. In that ratio, 4.4 Ks to every walk. You got to be kidding me. Second in the Cy Young Award 3 times, over 3,000 strikeouts. 3,000 strikeouts. Three seasons with 300 or more. 3 times World Series champ, right? 6-time All-Star. Played all 3 All-Star games I played in, he played in, so we're going to get into that a little bit. Arguably the best postseason pitcher of all time. 11-2, 2.23 ERA. This is another thing. In 1998, he had 15 complete games. You'll never see that again, ever. World Series, 4-1 of 206. Most famous sock of all time. We'll get into that too. But there's too much to say on this guy. Let's just bring him in. Curt Schilling. What's up, Schill? How you doing, brother?
Oh my God, Mr. Case, the mayor. Oh my God, it's so good. How are you doing, my friend?
Dude, I'm doing great, brother. I'm doing great. I got 2 kids in college right now playing baseball. 2 girls that are still home. Life is good, man. How are you doing? You said we had to delay the call because you're like, any chance I get a wake-up call because I got 6 puppies I watch at night. And then you're like, it sounds like you're doing pretty well out there in Tennessee. What is going on with you, brother? How's life, and what's up with these puppies you got at your house?
Well, first off, it's 9 puppies. God is good. In every sense of the meaning, God is good. I always tell people and kids when I talk to them that if I could have sat down and wrote out my life when I was 18, I would have cheated myself out of what I actually got to experience. My life is so far beyond anything you could ever imagine and dream and wish for, and more than I deserved. And, I'm at a place where baseball owes me nothing. I lived and had as good a time as you can have. And I think I've been retired 13 years now. It seems like 30.
Jeez.
But and we've had our challenges with my wife's health, and cancer's jumped into our family. We recently, a couple years back, lost a member of the family, dear member of the family. But here I am, and my Monday again is every bit like a real working person Saturday. I have 30. I have a farm. I have 30 some acres on a farm. I have llamas, alpacas, goats, turkeys, chickens, ducks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you name it. And,
it can't be that easy, though. Those dogs, those puppies. Wait, get to those puppies real quick, because I've been following your story. That's bananas. I don't know how.
Yeah, so I have 4 livestock dogs, and for anybody that doesn't know, well, you're a flyover state guy. So most people that listen know what livestock dogs are. They're working dogs, and they protect my animals. And I have two boys, Mance and Hodor, and the 2 girls are Sansa and Arya, and I got them all as puppies. The 2 girls are sisters, the 2 boys are brothers, and somehow the week before I was getting them all fixed, they hooked up.
No!
No protection involved, and Arya got pregnant, and which was unplanned. She's young, but I went to the vet, and they said they did an ultrasound, and they're like, yeah, you got 3 puppies. And then 2 weeks later, it was 7. And then the week before, she's like, I count 10. I'm like, no, you don't. You really don't. You don't count 10. And it was 10, but it was an emergency. She we had to go in and have a C-section. She almost died, and every puppy was born not breathing, and they brought them all back. These people at Fairview, I live in Fairview, Tennessee. So that was amazing. We lost one, unfortunately, but we have 9, and I'm keeping 2 of them. And they are, I'll bring one on in a little while. They're all sleeping right now.
Awesome.
But that's why it looks like I'm in a broom closet.
Dude. Do they chase wires? Are they like biting at the wires behind your TV and shit?
Yeah. No, they're full blown puppies now. Just complete lunacy. But I sleep in the garage. I have actually for the first 6 weeks, and I'm getting ready to move them down to the barn in a week or so. And it's a high stress time for my wife and her best friend who actually moved to Tennessee. Their family moved down to Tennessee to live right down the street. They take the day shift. I take the night shift. So I'm living the baseball life again. I'm up till, you get home at 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Go to bed at 2:30.
Yeah, 2:33 up at noon, back to the park at 1.
Oh my God, dude, that's great. Yep. Without the stress though of having to get guys out.
Right. There's no coming out of a game with the bases loaded. With your eyes
Oh, Schill, now are you a farmer? Like what the hell? You just routed off 45 animals. I got 1 dog. I don't know what the hell to do. The thing poops in my yard. I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do. I wouldn't know what to do with all those animals.
I guess you could say I'm a farmer in a sense. I mean, we have a farm, and the sign out front says Schilling Farm. So but I've loved it. I was born in Alaska. I grew up around animals. My dad always taught me. He taught me the rules of the road, nature, and animals, and they've just. I love them. I have so much fun, and there's so much peace and tranquility to being around them and being with them, and they're so much nicer than people. And
it's true.
They are.
A lot of unconditional love with animals.
So true.
A lot of unconditional love.
Yep.
So great. Hey, Sheila, I want to stay right there because I want to back it up a little bit, man. The coolest thing about this show, like doing this show, is when you start to, research your buddies. You're like, damn, these guys are good, and then you're like, damn. And then I was like, you were born in Alaska, right? And then you ended up in Arizona. Can you talk about that a little bit? What was that?
So, my dad was in the Army. Okay. He was stationed at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, which was where I was born. Spent the first 7 years of my life there, and then we moved around a little bit and ended up in Arizona in 1977 when I was 10. And that's where I lived until I went off to Elmira, New York for the New York Penn League and rookie ball in 1986. Yeah.
Well, what about your story is unbelievable because when I go back to your high school, is it true you didn't even play till your senior year, right?
I got cut. I was a white, slow Michael Jordan. I got cut until my senior year. And actually, my junior year, I was raised by an amazing man. My father was a very he was the opposite of me. He was a man of few words. And in my junior year, I got cut, and I played. And I grew up very lower middle class, but I played in an area where there was some people that were well off, and a lot of their sons. I played with their sons in Little League, and we had my high school was ranked nationally. There was a very good baseball area, and I got cut my junior year. And one of the fathers put a petition together to get our head coach fired because their sons got cut as well. Right. And they came to my house, and it was one of the most memorable days of my life. And they're all super nice guys. And they knocked on the door and they explained, why they were there. They were like, we put the petition together to get the coach fired. My dad says, well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm raising a young man. And if my son has a problem with his boss, then he needs to fix that. That's not for me to fix. And if he didn't make the team, he's either A, not good enough, or B, not a good teammate, and needs to fix those things. And they were like, okay. And that's exactly what it was. It was, it was just a situation where we were really good. A couple of the guys on the varsity team didn't like me. And so there was a little, war of wills and whatnot, but I learned a lesson, and it's one that proved true my entire life. You know, you're going to play with and work for people you don't like. That should never change the amount of effort you put in the game, the amount of love you have for the game, the amount of respect you have for the game. I mean, I had in the big league, well, minor leagues and in the big leagues, I had pitching coaches that ran the gamut. I had the greatest I've ever met, Johnny Padres and John Farrell, and I had some guys that weren't so good. When I pitched, and Johnny Padres was my pitching coach, and I threw a 2-hitter, I was beyond excited because Johnny was like my father. And when he would say, you were good today, that was the highest praise you could get.
Right.
When I pitched for another guy and I threw a 2-hitter, I didn't get that praise, but I didn't put any different effort into the game. And so, you know, I learned that, and I played, and I'm sure I don't know about you because, you know, and just let me sidetrack real quick, Rich. You clearly know Sean. And I've said this whole Hall of Fame thing that went on with me in the last, and writers talking about my character. I said, listen, if character truly mattered, Sean Casey, Jim Thome would have been first ballot unanimous Hall of Famers because you two, and I ran around and I was with very few people like Sean. I would say Tom Brady, David Ortiz, Rex Hudler. Everything is real. And I learned that being in the All-Star game, being around Sean and realizing that they don't have a down minute. And I'm sure they do.
Oh, yeah. Wait, can I interrupt you really quick? Right before we came on just now, I said, Sean, you need to take a break. Did I not say that to you? I'm like, you need to take a break because you're so good to so many people.
But it feels like, and it's genuine, their whole life is about making other people smile. Yeah. And those people are so rare and so valuable that you remember them. And Sean is one of those guys I competed against, even though he did hit 316 off me with a. Did
I really? No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. No bombs. I did punch you out twice.
Shit.
I remember.
Hey, I struck you out twice in 21 at bats. So that's
wow. Good research. Number one. Number two, you're right. He's my life would not be as pleasant as it is without Sean in it. So seriously, I'm saying.
And there are hundreds of guys from rookie ball to the big leagues who played with him who feel the same way. And so that was when I think about the game and the blessings that I got from the game, it was to be around and to meet people and to compete against people like Sean, because Sean wasn't just a good guy. Sean was a hell of a baseball player and a legitimate, I think he was very underrated defensively. Offensively, he was a force. And and he was one of those guys I never really liked to face, only because I didn't like to face guys that didn't swing and miss. And he didn't swing and miss a lot, and that bothered me because
you were in the zone. We're going to get into it later. You were in the zone.
I watched video, so I could if I saw you hit more times before I faced you than you saw your own video, and if you had holes where you swung and missed, I would hit those holes, and he didn't have those, and so and then anybody that takes their uniform and gets autographs on their All-Star game at first base is somebody to remember.
Well, Schill, I remember, well, that story was, Schill and I were at the All-Star game in 99. Schill was the starting pitcher, by the way. And, they had given us 2 jerseys. Tommy, the club, he's like, hey, guys, everyone's got 2 jerseys. Sign one, and the ones I'll put it in the locker for the game. So I'm like, all right, cool. Sign it real big. Boom. Next day, the game's, about to start. I get out of my BP top, go to put my jersey. I'm like, the hell is this? Why do I have a signed jersey? And then Tommy's like, hey, the Reds are so cheap, they only sent you 1 jersey. I'm like, what the hell? I wouldn't have signed it. But Shill, I remember you crushing me going, Case, great job signing your jersey.
That was the greatest. he takes a Sharpie out to first base and gets autographs of guys. Like it was, and by the way, how about that All-Star game? That was one of the most memorable All-Star games in the history of baseball with Ted Williams and
Shill, what do you remember about that? What are your memories about the 99 All-Star game?
I remember Pedro striking out every hitter in the stadium and the fans. That's what I remember.
It was unbelievable, dude.
Oh my God, it was. You know what it was? It was a glimpse at greatness. That everybody talks about Koufax and things like that, and Feller. That was one of those defining moments for Petey, and it was. I'm on the other side, like, oh, that's awesome. No, it was an amazing experience, and it was at Fenway. I mean, what I remember, Case. I remember the home run derby.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, and all those phonies in the media that were talking about how awesome the game was back then in 98, 99, and then now they're like, oh, you're cheaters. Those guys were all in awe with us. Watching McGuire hit stuff into like Swampscott, Massachusetts, and
over the Sitco sign, sign.
That was just, and then Sosa, and it was, and obviously having Mr. Williams on the field. Which, by the way, I have a Ted Williams story for you that you're going to blow you away later. Just remind me to tell you.
Do not forget that story. We got to tell that. Because dude, just staying on that All-Star game, one of the coolest moments for me, Shill. I don't know. Did you? You were obviously warming up for the game, so you weren't on the field when we were all there, right?
I actually got hurt that night. I actually got hurt warming up that night, and ended up I made a couple starts after the All-Star game, then I had surgery.
Oh no!
Because I warmed up. Remember the pregame? The pregame ended up going for 45 minutes. And I started warming up thinking of the original start time. I warmed up for almost 45 minutes.
Oh, no.
And literally blew out. Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's terrible, dude.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, though, that's another thing. Like, you could look at it as a bad experience, but it was one of the greatest experiences of my life because it was 99. My wife was with me. If you remember, what was it? Smash Mouth had the "Hey, now you're an all-star." That was
so awesome. Yes.
Yeah. And Boston fans, being Boston fans, made it one of the most amazing experiences of my life.
Oh my dude, I want to rewind that as we get going because I want to go back to that. Even like your memory of like. Well, I want to know. Let's just stay here now. Like because I know for me when Pedro struck out those guys.
Bagwell, Sosa, McGuire,
Larkin. Larry Walker. Yeah.
Yep. Like
I mean,
Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like it was. Yeah. It was.
And the place almost came down.
Well, it wasn't. And that was the other thing. He's a Red Sox. We're in Fenway. He struck out. But it wasn't that he struck them out. I mean, that was unbelievable. It was.
Right.
It looked silly.
Right.
Like it was like I was hitting 5 times in a row.
Yeah, he was making the greatest players, some of them of all time, look like 10-year-old kids.
4 of them. Wait, Bagwell is a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Larkin is a Hall of Famer.
Larkin's a Hall of Famer. Yep.
Larry Walker's a Hall of Famer.
I think McGuire should be. I'm just.
McGuire and Sosa.
Yeah, Sosa. It was.
And as a pitcher, I always appreciated that kind of thing. I always, because I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm up against Pedro. I'm going to go out there and strike out 4 guys this inning. And I end up freaking just getting my lunch eaten.
Well, dude, I remember one other thing. One of the coolest moments of my life happened during that moment. And I remember when I was working for MLB Network with Jeter, we asked Jeter, hey, man, what was the coolest moment of your career? All the championships, all the things. Yeah. And he came out and said, you know what? The coolest moment was the 99 All-Star game when Ted Williams came out and we were walking up to Ted Williams. He said, Hank Aaron grabbed him and was like, hey, man, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Hank Aaron.
Right.
And I really like the way you play the game. And I had, on the other side, Shill, I'm walking up and I get a pat on my shoulder. It's George Brett. And he goes, hey, man, I just want to tell you, I love your swing. You got a sweet lefty swing. Yep. I'm George Brett. I was just like, it was the first time I was speechless in my life.
And in your head, you're like, dude, you're seriously introducing yourself to me? I knew who you were. I knew who you were before I knew who Farrah Fawcett was. I had your poster on my wall instead of those hot models.
So true, man. Yep. So true. For how much, and Shill, for you, how you love the game, how much you love the history of the game, and me too.
John,
you know what I mean?
We all grew up as fans. When we grew up, when we were growing up, and then when we played, we weren't embarrassed to tell people we were fans of the game. Nowadays, people are like, oh, I don't even watch the game. I lived and breathed it. I knew Brett. I remember the year Brett hit 390. I just remember in 1980, every day looking at the box scores and thinking, he's going to get enough at bats to qualify. And this is when I was 10. He's going to get enough at bats to qualify. And oh my God, is he going to hit 400? And so every time I met those guys, it was yes, Mr. Brett, yes, sir, no, and they're like, dude, don't call me Mister. That make me feel old. I said, well, I was 7 when I watched it.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Shill, my first year, bro, I came out the gates hitting like $170, $180, but I was such a big fan. I was holding guys on at first saying, hey, bro, any chance you could send the ball over? And I must have collected 250 balls. I'm like, hey.
You and I, if we had played together early in my career, you and I would have problems. Because when I look over to hold the guy at first base and you're like, hey, man, listen, you were like Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live. You know, it was. But that goes back to that's the way we love the game.
Yeah,
we love the purity of the game, and I think that's why I never got charged. And I hit 52 guys in my career, and I probably hit 5 of them by accident. But I never got charged. But I never got charged. I played the game right. If I hit you, you got hit for a reason. You knew you were going to get hit.
You knew it. Yeah, exactly. When I used to get hit,
throw your head, and you ran the balls out. You played the game hard. And listen, I'm not. It might sound like I'm the old stuffy, get off my lawn old guy, and I'm not. But the game today is not the game that you and I played and the game that we grew up with. And the sad part is that it's not, but there are more great young players in baseball today than I've ever seen. And these guys are, and I think part of it's a byproduct of the game and a byproduct of the teaching. I haven't watched a baseball game in years. I can't do it because when I watch a starting pitcher come off the field after 5 1/3 and tip his hat, I get acid reflux. I literally almost have to throw up. It's like when a guy goes 7, he gets a standing O, and I'm thinking to myself, I was raised. I threw almost 200 innings, 3 or 4 different seasons in the minor leagues because that's how you learn.
Yeah, right.
And that's just not happening anymore. And it's not the player's fault because I think when you see a pitcher get $13 million in the first round, the team's going to protect that $13 million investment. They don't want him to get hurt in A-ball. Right. So he ends up going to the big leagues. He's got 150 innings under his belt. I had 150 innings after my first year pro ball in rookie league and instructional league. But they're trying to make sure these guys, they get the return on their investment. And that's why you're seeing the game you're seeing. And like I said, it's got to be harder now to hit than it's ever been. Because you're literally, you're facing 5 different pitchers if you get 5 at bats.
It's like spring training.
And all 5 guys are throwing 94 to 98 with a wipeout slider. And you're almost never facing, as a lefty, you're almost never facing a righty.
Yeah. No, you never.
It's insane. But it's not fun to watch. It really isn't.
Yeah.
And I love the game. And I have always been a purist like you, but I just can't. This game today is just uncomfortable.
Shill, what would you do if you were like like Kershaw? These guys are at 7 perfect innings and are like, what would you have done if Dave Roberts said, "Hey, Shill, we're gonna save your arm"?
No. See, listen. But it was different. I earned the right on the staffs that I pitched on and the way that I threw. And 9 times out of 10, I had meetings with my pitching coaches and managers before the season. I said, listen, I showed up at spring training ready to throw a complete game opening day. My offseason routine was such that I'm going to tell you, here's my pitch counts for my starts in spring training, because when I pitch opening day, those are my 9 innings. You're not, one of the big mistakes that young pitchers used to make, and I used to talk to them about, was, listen, you're not in the big leagues to pitch. They're paying you $13 million a year to win. There's a big difference. When you leave the game after the 6th inning, you've left a third of the game to the bullpen. And so, but I always tried to create and generate a different feeling on the day I pitched. I poured my heart and soul into my video and my preparation. I had a meeting, my pregame meeting with my catcher, and I had usually it was my second baseman or my shortstop, who was my defensive guy. I would say, listen, when I do this or this, you're going to move this guy this way, you're going to put this guy here. And I remember I was in Arizona one time, and Gonzo was playing left field, and I said, listen, I want you to play here for this guy. And he goes, well, it was Tony Gwynn. I said, I want you to play right here. He said, well, what happens if he hits a ball over my head? If he hits a ball over your head, I've made a mistake, and I don't want you to defend my mistakes. But I made it so I was completely and solely accountable in the days that I pitched. And guys saw how invested I was. And for me, in their mind, it was win day. Like if we don't win today, it's going to be some fluke of nature, because we're all ready and we're all prepared. And in my mind, one of my most vivid memories early in my career was I remember Michael Barrett for the Expos.
Oh yeah, catcher.
So I'm in Montreal, and I pitched awesome in Montreal. And I think it was because I hated Canada so much that I was always angry when I was in Montreal. But I'm sitting on the bench. I had a routine that literally, and I'll tell you, the first day of spring, my first start, at 1:00 in the afternoon when I threw 2 innings. That day went exactly the same time and preparation-wise as Game 7 in the 2001 World Series. Because I had a routine. The only thing that was ever the variable in the day I pitched was the actual game itself. Everything else was the same. So I was always comfortable, but I would go down to the bench before my start, 38 minutes before the game, or I would go down 45 minutes before the game first pitch, and I would sit there for 7 minutes, and 38 minutes before the first pitch, I'd walk the bullpen. Well, I'm sitting on a bench in Montreal. You remember Montreal, the old stadium, Stade Olympique.
Oh yeah.
Which is basically parking lot pavement in the outfield.
Totally.
I'm watching Michael Barrett down the right field line. He's starting that night, and he's signing autographs, and he's kind of talking to this young lady and giggling. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, you got no chance. I'm so deep in your kitchen. I know exactly what you're going to do tonight, and you're signing autographs and flirting with a chick 30 minutes before the first pitch. You're 0 for 4 tonight, and you just don't know it. And in my mind, that was how when I faced the Reds, and I had Tom Browning, I only had to get about 15 outs because I knew 12 were automatics. Whereas the other guys think it, but it wasn't that way. But in my
it was
mind,
the game. It was the game you're playing. It's the game in your mind. Yeah.
When I'm facing the Reds, I've got Sean Casey or Hal Morris or Barry Larkin. Those are the 3 to 9 at bats that I'm going to have to grind my butt off and work to get out. Sabo, I know what he's going to do. I know his approach is very, very linear, and so I'm going to make these pitches in this count, whatever.
Right.
But I worked my butt off to give myself a mental edge, and I remember John Vanderwall one day. We were in San Francisco, and Vandy was one of the best pinch hitters in the National League. Him and Dave Hansen at the time, and Vandy comes up to me and he says, "Dude, you don't understand. Like, there are guys in this lineup tonight that are already out. They know that you've already seen them hit more times this week than they've seen themselves hit in the last 5 years. and mentally, they're already out of the game. Marvin Bernard, the JT Snows, and they already know that you've got them. And I realized that people knowing how I went about my preparation was a huge advantage for me.
Yeah.
And so when I took the mound, I always had an edge, whether I did or didn't. Right. I had an edge, and so. And it was, and you come to find out, for me, it was always about, I don't know how you did it, Case, but I Palmer, Seaver, Koufax, Gibson, Drysdale, Sutton, Maddox, Clement, every Hall of Famer that I ever had a chance to be around, I talked to. I went out and I met and spoke with people who were the best in the world at brain surgeons, pianists, dancers, whatever, because I wanted to find out why the people that were the best in the world were what they were. And I came to realize, and I'm sure you know this too, when you and I got to the big leagues, it was probably the first time in our lives we were ever on an equal playing field, or people were better than us, right? That's when big leaguers, for the first time, good big leaguers, like Barry Bonds never competed against someone that could get him out until he got to the big leagues. And even then it was
right. That's tough. Yeah.
Right. But when you get there, you realize then it's not physical ability. It's 100% above the neck. Yep. Everything about the big leagues is above the neck. And there, people don't understand this. I remember Brian Jordan and Deion Sanders both said, Deion Sanders, by the way, I hated him, and I've never heard a bad word about the guy.
One of the best teammates. Dude, I played with him. Yep. Great. Seriously, one of the greatest teammates ever.
I also have a Deion Sanders story too. So
yeah, great.
But I heard he was one of the greatest teammates of all time. But they both said that playing in the major leagues was way harder than playing in the NFL. Wow. Because on Monday night when you're banged up, and baseball is a small muscle sport. Like a tight hamstring, it might. It set a defensive back, but they'll wrap and they'll rest.
You'll grind through it. Yeah.
You got John Smoltz on Tuesday. You don't get the rest.
Right.
And then you got Maddox on Wednesday.
You're playing.
And so every night it's the best in the world, and nobody's 100%. And and honestly, I don't know about you, but when you realize that guys were doing PEDs, and I started to ask around, and I studied after this to understand why it wasn't about the muscles. It was about the fact that Barry Bonds on September 1st in 2001 was spring training fresh, and I was dragging butt. I was exhausted. Right. What an enormous advantage that is mentally, and that's all you need, the advantage mentally. What an enormous advantage that is for a hitter or a pitcher who's April fresh in September when we're just like, dude.
Grinding.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Shill, when you talk about, because that routine, bro, like I remember when I first got to minor league ball, the veteran players be like, hey man, find a routine. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? They're like, you're going to play so many games. If you don't find a routine, this game will eat you up, and it'll eat you up fast.
You don't get to the big leagues.
It ain't happening. So I remember in the minors, I started to develop a routine, and then when I got to the big leagues, I had a routine. Who taught you that? Like, how did you learn? What was your influence for that?
Right. So that was, it was because of Tony Gwynn.
Wow.
Yeah. At the end of all of this, Tony Gwynn. So all those names I mentioned before, that was another reason. Early in my career, I wanted to know how come I can throw 95 and I've got a 3-something ERA, and Greg Maddux can throw 89 and he's got a 1.6. What? And you know, you start to understand the nuances of pitching and preparation, and he had a photographic memory and all the things that go with that. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to throw harder than anybody that's ever been here before. I'm not going to have a nastier split than anybody that's ever played in the big leagues. So how do I want to be the best. I don't want to pitch. I want to be the best guy in the game. How do I do that? So I started to pick apart all the pregame stuff. But what happened was I had a routine early in my career, and then we went to San Diego, and I was pitching a Sunday game, and Tony Gwynn went 5 for 5 on Saturday night. And I remember in the press after the game, I was watching Baseball Tonight, and I read the papers, and he's like, and Andy Ashby had pitched, and he said, you know, I knew what he was going to do. 2-1, he was going to come with the slider, and then the next at bat, 0-1, I know he goes fastball away, blah blah. I'm thinking to myself, I'm done. I have no chance. I'm pitching tomorrow, and this guy already knows everything I'm going to do. And then I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, I think I can do that if I go and watch video and I understand where a guy can't hit the baseball, and I can actually just continually throw the ball there. I mean, hitters are the dumbest creatures on the planet. And the fact of the matter is most hitters don't change. You get to the big leagues hitting a certain way. You'll tweak some things and do some things differently, but you hit what you hit. Derek Jeter was always a guy who hit the right field. Why? Because he played in Yankee Stadium, and there was a short porch in right. He understood that he could get the ball out of the ballpark in right field, and there was a big gap, whatever. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to do this. So I started doing video back when it was VHS tapes. So and the Reds were the first team I ever did. I'll never forget this. I had a giant.
What year, Shill? Do you remember what year? What year?
Probably 95.
Okay, 94.
Yeah. I had a big bag of video cassettes that I just carried with me, and after each game I would go back like a video guy, and I would cut each at bat to hitter to his own tape, and I still have the bag of tape somewhere. But then I would watch them. Well, then I ended up running into a guy who made computer software, and I paid him $25,000 a year, and he built me a piece of software. He would send me a burned CD the day after a start of all the game broken down pitch by pitch every at bat. And so I had a case about that big, thick, full of CDs from every game, every pitch I ever threw. And so when I'm watching Sean Casey in his 21st at bat against me, I've got all 20 at bats, every pitch broken down by every possible equation you could break it down by. So I knew, and so for me, it became, I understood from Maddux and these guys, it's not about home runs and RBIs. It's about swing percentage and on-base percentage. What does Sean Casey do with the first pitch? Well, he swings 12% of the time. Okay, well, I'm going to.
Wait, is that accurate?
Fastball down and away, unless the situation, because you were
unless there were runners on, unless there were runners in scoring position, I would swing at the first pitch. That's unbelievable.
Exactly, and so the swing percentages would change dramatically based on situations. All I had to do was know it. So in my notebook, which I kept a notebook every year, in my notebook I would have Casey, and then on the left side I would have at bats, first pitch swings, and 2-strike swing percentage.
Oh my God!
And then you know, you had those what was it, the blue and red, the data, the reports we used to get. The problem with that for me was when I looked at that blue and red strike zone for Sean Casey, that had Clemens and Tom Browning's pitches in there. 2 completely different guys. Right. So it didn't do me any good to see what you did against Tom Browning or any lefty. I needed to see right-handed power guys.
Right.
And what you did. And so so that allowed me to cut and look at you. And so eventually, as I got older, I had enough at bats enough plate appearances against you, I could just watch our 20 at-bats over and over again. And so I would develop this routine. The routine that I developed was, the day after I pitched, or the night after I pitched. And let me back up. I know I'm going on a billion different tangents.
No, I love it.
No, but what I would do is I would after the game was over, I would find out. So if I'm pitching Monday, I'm going to pitch on Saturday. Saturday's a day game. I already knew who my home. So, well, I'm going to back up twice now. In spring training, the biggest day of the season for me was the day that the umpire schedule came out. So I would have the clubhouse guy bring me the umpire schedule, a copy of it, and the umpire's press guide. And so what I would do, I had a book on umpires, and I learned that from Clemens. So what I would do is, and there was a website when we played, a Las Vegas betting website that had all of the umpires and all of their statistical breakdown of first pitch strikes, inside, outside, blah, blah, blah. So in spring training, I saw the rotations for the first half of the season. I knew every home plate umpire for every start I had. And I would say, okay, on Monday night, I just got done pitching. And you live it. I don't know about you, but for me, the game, I worked my ass off and did all of my work for that 30 minutes after a good game. When I was standing in the locker room and I know I did my job.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God. And then 30 minutes later, okay, I'm pitching Saturday. It's a day game in San Diego. I know Bobby Guerin's their backup catcher. He'll catch because so-and-so is going to play on Friday night. So I need to study him. And in the National League, I would study the 8 starters that I knew I was going to get. And then I would study the 3 or 4 guys that may come off the bench because you're always going to see pinch hitters in the National League. And for the most part, I knew I'd be in the game in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. So then it was 4 days of physical work. And every day I'd be in the video room. The first day, Tuesday, was 3 to 4 hours of watching all of the Reds. All of my at-bats against all the Reds. Wednesday was the lineup. I would start to look at the lineup. I would write down what I thought my lineup was going to be with the 2 or 3 extra hitters and the pitcher, obviously, because there was Mike Hamptons when I played and guys that were literally not pitchers. And so I would study that. And then the night before, I would do my final. I would write my game plan out. And it would be like, okay, Sean Casey, first pitch fastball away, runners in scoring position, move so-and-so here, move so-and-so here, pitch away, play away, whatever. And then, it goes back to Gwynn. And the thing about Tony Gwynn was there were hitters that were so good, they were easy to pitch to. Because Tony Gwynn was not going to swing and miss. Right. So if Tony Gwynn's not going to swing and miss, what can I do? Well, what I can do is I can shift my center fielder into the left center field gap. I can move my left fielder over and in. I can move my second baseman to the second base, shortstop side, second base. I was shifting before the shift. And and what I did was I just threw him fastballs away and let him hit a line drive to the left side. And hopefully he hit it at somebody.
And would you tell your defense though before the game started?
Before the game.
So not when you're on the mound, like, hey man, shift over and
Right. And Tony was smart enough. He would see it. And so eventually he got to the point where he would adjust to me. He would move up on the plate to try and hook a ball.
Try to hook it. Yeah, I was just saying, buggy whip the outside heater.
So that was one of the few times I could go in because in the old San Diego Stadium, you had to get a piece of a ball to get it out in right field.
Big time.
And so you didn't go in on Tony because he had those hands. So he let me come in on him every now and then. But it gets back to the minutia. That was. So I would have that game plan. I would write that game plan down. My game day would go, like I said, it was exactly the same. Even in spring training, I would sit down with my catcher, my pitching coach, and my second baseman, and I would tell them what the game plan was. Because what that did was that put all the responsibility on me. I wanted that accountability. If we won, it was going to be because you guys scored runs and played great defense. If we lost, it was going to be because I made bad pitches. Because I found it early in my career that if I take all the responsibility for the loss and none of it for the win, my teammates are going to love me. They're going to play their asses off behind me. And if you look back, I believe I hold the record for longest or most innings pitched without allowing an unearned run. Because I didn't give up on unearned runs because my defense, first of all, was aligned properly, but they were on their toes because they knew, hey, listen, I don't want to be the guy that messes this thing up because this guy's all bought in and everybody else, he's got me in the right, whatever. But I got buy-in from the guys that played with me. And to the point, we were so bad in Philadelphia that Tito would come to me and ask me who I wanted in my lineups every day. but it was because I would pick a defensive lineup in my mind because I'm not gonna give up any runs. So I need the guys that can catch the ball, and if we can scrape a couple runs, awesome. But I always want, and it was the same thing with my catcher. I never demanded a catcher, but I was like Maddox. When I started with a catcher at the beginning of the year, that's who I picked to every time because tempo for me was a very big part of my game. I'm on the rubber, get in the box, let's go. And I don't want to be out there shaking off and stepping off and hey, come out here. And so I want to flow because when I drop a 2-0 split on you, I want it to be every bit as normal as a 2-0 fastball, except for the pitch. And if I'm not shaking and I'm going yes right to the first pitch, you're not thinking 2-0 split. And little things like that. So that game plan got translated to my pitching coach and my defensive guy, Dustin Pedroia with the Red Sox was my guy, and my catcher. And Veritek was the first catcher I ever played with who put the time that I put in the video room.
You know what? I remember Tech on the flights when I played with the Red Sox. This guy is like everyone's playing cards, this and that, and Tech's in his seat going over the they're going through his notes on, and I'm looking like Tech, what are you doing? I'm looking at the lineup. I'm breaking down the guys. What are we going to throw here? It's exactly what you were talking about.
Well, think about this. No one caught more no hitters into the ninth inning in the history of baseball than Tech, and it was because I had 2 outs in the ninth inning, and I lost a no-hitter in Oakland because I shook him off. It was the only pitch I shook him off the whole night.
Oh, my God. Are you serious, Shill?
Only pitch I shook off the whole night. And if I would have thrown what he wanted.
Why'd you shake him off?
Well, I'm an idiot. But there was a reason why he was that good because he was bought into that. And so my catcher was the same guy every fifth day. And what I did was I created – Mike Lieberthal is a great example. Levy, who was a fantastic guy, tremendously talented young player.
Yes.
Very offensive focused. One day I caught him on the bench. I'm sitting there and I'm pitching, and he's down at the end of the bench going like this. And I walked down and I said, let me explain something to you, dude. I said, you go 0-for-4 and punch out 4 times. I'm going to feel bad for you, but I don't care. Right. You need to manage my umpire and catch the game. And if you do those two things, you'll have had as good a game as you can possibly have. And I got my catchers to buy in to this day's different than the other days, and I'm being held accountable for my job as a catcher today more so than, and so what I tried to generate a very different feeling on the day I pitched.
Shill. How I want to stay right there. How do you as a pitcher and as a catcher, you just said that you want Lieberthal to manage the umpire because that is a skill, I believe.
Absolutely.
How do you as a pitcher, as a premier pitcher as you are, how do you manage an umpire?
So I go back, I told you I had the press guide. So I studied these guys. I knew that where Wally Bell went to college. I knew what his favorite football team was. I knew what he liked to golf. I knew all of his hobby. I did that with all the umpires. Because in the National League, when you hit as a pitcher, you have a rare, every now and then there's a timeout or whatever. I look back and go, wow, dude, Nebraska did whatever. But the umpires, there were 3 grades of umpires. There were good ones, there were average ones, and there were bad ones. The good ones, Ed Rapolano, Jim Joyce.
Yes.
The good ones, I'll never forget in Game 4 of the World Series in 2001, I'm pitching to the Yankees, and the only fastball I wanted to throw to Shane Spencer away was on the first pitch, and everything else was after that. I threw a first pitch perfect pitch. He calls it a ball. Rapolano, and I'm thinking to myself, next pitch, I throw fastball. I go fastball away again. He hits a home run to right field. As he hits the ball, I look at Rapolano, and he taps his chest. And he goes, that's my fault, man.
Yeah, but you're like, that ball's in the stands, Ed. I need you to be better.
Right. No, but think about that. I had the umpire being concerned about being good on the day I pitched.
Yeah.
So now, because on the days when Greg Gibson was behind the plate, it was hard enough to get Sean Casey out. If I had to get Sean Casey out and I have to convince Greg Gibson to be better, that makes it harder for me.
Right.
And or if, for example, Hunter Wendelstedt is up and I've got you with 2 strikes, if I try to go in, that's my fault. Hunter Wendelstedt doesn't call the inside part of the plate very well against left-handed hitters.
Right.
So if I'm going to try and make that pitch, I'm making a pitch against the odds. I know those odds and all those things, all those, again, the minutia. So what I would have I told my catcher, I said, listen, you don't ever turn around to him. You can talk to him all you want. I said, but don't make your at-bats harder, number one, because that's all you're doing. And number two, I'll take care of the communication unless it gets, Bob Davidson, Bach and Bob.
Oh, yeah, Bach and Bob, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we had a game in Cincinnati. Actually, it was in Cincinnati. We had a game in Cincinnati, and he called a balk on me, and Darren and him were going at it the whole game. And he eventually throws Darren out, and he comes out to me, and I don't know if you can bleep the language, but
no, you can say it. Darren Dalton.
No, you can say whatever you want.
You're talking Darren Dalton right now.
What's that?
Darren Dalton.
Yeah, Darren Dalton is catching, and him and Bob are going back at it. Bob's been horrible, and he calls a balk, and he's screwing the strike zone up, and he comes out, and I said, Bob, what the fuck? What are you doing back there? And he goes, hey, your catcher is costing you a lot of pitches, keeping his mouth yapping. I said, motherfucker, my catcher talking has nothing to do with the strike zone. Do your fucking job. But you understand guys like that listen, I'm not gonna piss him off. Now I'll go back to this is my Joe West story. Okay. This was all you ever need to know about Umpire.
I just want to know, did you ever piss off Joe West?
So listen to this. 1996. I'm at a banquet in Philadelphia. I'm sitting at the dais. It's me, Joe West, Darren Dalton sitting next to each other. Joe West was persona non grata in Philadelphia. People hated Joe West in Philadelphia. They actually made a dartboard with his face in the middle of it, and it was like sold at the ballpark. So I'm sitting next to Joe, and I never really met Joe. And I'm talking to him, and he's funny as hell. I'm like, wow, this is a little different guy than I'm used to. And Darren goes up there and tells a joke to the crowd. And the joke was, the punchline was, well, I guess to Joe West, this is 8 inches. And I was like, oh. And Joe goes up to the dais, and he says, and his punchline to Darren was, I guess to Darren Dalton, this is 8 inches. Everybody laughs. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. So I go up there and I said, listen, I was in Montreal this summer, and I was pitching a game. And the day before I was pitching this game, I saw Joe West, and I saw this really hot blonde. And Joe West was with this hot blonde, and I'm looking at Joe West, I'm looking at her, and they just don't add up. I said, but it just dawned on me today, the reason they add up is because to Joe West, this is 8 inches. Everybody laughed. Hey, it's the funniest thing ever. Fast forward to this is 97, the year of the Marlins World Series. Fast forward to July, I'm pitching in Florida. I walked Gary Sheffield on strike 6. And like I've walked like 5 or 6 guys during the game.
Oh my God!
And I'm like, and I had phenomenal stuff.
And you never walk guys. You never.
I don't walk guys, and I'm not. These aren't balls. So finally, after Sheffield walks, I go to walk in towards the mound, and Joe comes out, and I'm going to change baseballs, and I got my head down. I go, Joe, what the hell is going on? He goes, big boy, that ball's about 8 inches out. And I was like, I'm done. I'm never going to make fun of an umpire again. Like, basically telling me, like, he fixed the game. I was like, okay, all right, that you win.
Oh my God, dude, that is so great. No, Joe was great. As a hitter, bro, when and especially a younger guy, like I look for the younger guys. Okay, good. I got Joe West behind the dish. I got a younger guy on the mound. And then the first inning, if he didn't get a call and he gave one of these, I'm like, yes. I'm like,
oh yeah.
The strike zone just went to the size of the baseball. I know I'm getting 3 hits tonight.
Yep.
I know.
Part of my pregame was I knew the Paul O'Neills of the world, and who had never, and I loved Paul, who was phenomenal talent, but Paul never took a strike in his life. Him and Bernie Williams, right? Steve Finley. I knew which umpires didn't like which hitters, and I knew which hitters were going to get a bigger strike zone because they were complainers, and I would expand. If I can throw you a ball and have it called a strike, I'm going to do it every time. And there's a misconception out there, I think, about Joe was a good umpire.
Joe was a great umpire. You knew what you were getting with Joe West. You knew exactly his strike zone. I thought his strike zone was one of the best ever.
Yeah, he was consistent, and that's the one word you'll hear from any pitcher that's worth their weight in salt. Listen, I would love you to call a big strike zone, but my concern is I want strike 1 to be strike 3.
Yeah.
All right. Don't call strike 1 ball 2. But there were a lot of umpires that did that. I also knew the umpires that played to the crowds. I knew, especially in the postseason, you could get an umpire energized in a home game. They love, Steve Ripley rings up Derek Jeter in Game 7 of the World Series on a pitch this far off the outside corner because the place is rocking loud. And I know Steve is like into it, and he rings him up and you take advantage, again, the little things. It's 27 outs against the best players in the world every night. Every single advantage I can get on every pitch, I'm going to take.
Sheil, what would you do? Two questions here. What would you do if you didn't have your great stuff? That's the first question.
Yeah.
If you couldn't, you're trying to execute. You've done your homework. Your routine's pristine. Right. But all of a sudden, you get out there like, holy shit, my split looks like a BP fastball.
Right.
My slider's not biting. All I have is my heater. What do you do then?
Adjust. You adjust because it's just like on nights when you're not comfortable with the ball in. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You got a guy blowing 94 who works. I'm
giving it to him. I'm splitting the plate.
Yep. And there was no different. The last probably year and a half of my career, I was Tom Browning. I mean, I felt I didn't have the fastball and my arm speed. The split relies on arm speed a lot, so my split was a lot flatter. And I had to really, really pitch. And so precision became everything to me. And my last start was actually a World Series game. And, I'm throwing the ball 88 and 90. 88 is the nightmare velocity in the big leagues. Every hitter in the game.
Yeah, could crush 88.
Yes. Yeah. So I can't throw a pitch in the middle of the plate, and I have to have something that moves, and I have to have something that changes speed. So it was on the fly, improvise. Yeah. And that was to me, because, excuse me, I watched the great pitchers do it. I watched, it's not about, listen, there's going to be 4 or 5 starts a season where I'm going to go out and you lose. I got my stuff. There's
going to dominate.
You can do about it. I can tell you, I'm going to throw you a fastball and nothing you can do about it. There's going to be probably 25 starts where I'll leave the bullpen. I'll have to work my stuff, establish my fastball. And there's going to be 4 or 5 starts where when I'm done warming up, Johnny Padres looks at me and goes, hey, good luck tonight, brother.
You're fucked.
You're right. Yeah. I'll never, when I was coming back from my shoulder surgery after 95, I'll never forget this. I come in, one of my first starts against San Francisco in Old Candlestick, and I'm warming up. And as I'm warming up, it's all the guys in the bullpen are stretching. And I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? And I'm warming up, and I'm walking, and Pods was always, hey, go get him, big boy. Pods was like, hey, listen, just do what you can. Just do what you can. I'm like, what does that mean? I go out, first inning, I throw 84-mile-an-hour fastball, first pitch pop-up. 85-mile-an-hour fastball, Rich Aurelio, first pitch pop-up. 86-mile-an-hour fastball, Matt Williams, pop 3 pitches. Pop 3 pop-ups. I come out the next inning, I strike out 7 hitters in a row throwing 98.
What?
And because my arm was just developing and coming back and stuff. But I learned early in my career, I'm pitching a game against Maddox in Philadelphia. And I'm a routine guy. There's a rain delay to start the game. I'm warming up, and I'm thinking it might be a perfect game. I might punch out 21. I have
the great stuff.
Oh my God. I'm painting both corners. I'm throwing 98 in the pen, and Pods is like, holy shit. My split is dropping off the table. I actually have a slider. I'm walking down going, oh my God, this is going to be hilarious. I'm just going to dominate these guys. 2 1/3, 6 earnings, 5 wild pitches, hit 2 guys.
Oh my God.
That was the last time I ever allowed my bullpen to impact my start, because I realized most times I went out, my bullpen was warm up. My bullpen was batting practice, and it was nothing else, because once the game starts, everything changes. And so that's a lesson you learn early in your career. As a hitter, you have that monster
dude.
BP.
I would do the same thing. I'd have a great BP. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm ready. 0 for 4, 2 punch outs, 2 rollovers. I'm like, what the hell? And then I'd go up there sometimes, have the shittiest BP you've ever seen. And I'd go back in. But as I got older too, I was like, listen, I go out 3 for 4, 2 bombs. It is crazy how mentally
I used to watch Petey Cavilla hit balls out of the Veterans Stadium at 5 o'clock. And then come 7:05, it was 4
punchies. Yeah. Dude, what about your time in Philly, man? Like, I know, you know, I feel like you played with some great fans. You played with the great fans of Philly, great fans of Boston, even Arizona at the time you were there. Right. But what was your time like in Philly? You know, 93 World Series, you were the NLCS MVP. You really started getting your game going in Philly.
It was, so that's where my career, for the most part, started. I mean, I came up with Baltimore, and I was devastated when I got traded from the Orioles because that was a city that like St. Louis, they love their baseball players.
Yeah.
They love their baseball team. And I thought we had a good young nucleus. I thought we were going to do great. Go to Houston for a year, pitch in front of 62 people a night and in the Al Astrodome and watch Jeff Bagwell win Rookie of the Year. And then I go to Philadelphia, and in 92 we stink. But I have my kind of breakout season. And 93, you got to think about this. That was 30 years ago almost. Yeah. That is still one of the most revered teams in the history of Philadelphia baseball. We didn't win anything.
Right.
You know, those fans, they idolized you. First of all, you had to be a good player. If you sucked, they didn't like you. It didn't matter.
Yeah, You couldn't hide. You couldn't hide in Philly. You couldn't hide in Philly. Yeah.
No. But they wanted effort and they wanted results. And I left everything I had on the mound every time I pitched for 20 years. And I think they realized that. And we were so bad when I was there. That it was awesome at first in the sense that we were so bad. Like every fifth day was my day, and the place there'd be 30,000 instead of 11,000. Right. It felt like 60, but it turned into a burden. I really surprised me. I didn't like it because if I didn't win on Monday, it was a miserable week.
Right.
Because then, you know, you got who going? Michael Mims and Matt Beach.
You guys are struggling. Yeah.
And young guys who were called up too soon or whatever. But they were good to my family. They were great to me. They were always appreciative. And so I treasured that. And then my family, you know, Sean and I got married and we had our first 3 kids in Philly. So our family kind of put its roots down in baseball, put its roots down in me in Philadelphia. And I treasured. And you're right. I again, when I go back and think about it, I played in Philadelphia for 10 years. Some of the most amazing and I love the fact that they made visiting players just. Oh,
dude.
Chill.
When I was in Philly, I always tell this story. Whenever you'd go on deck, you know, they're right there on you and they'd be like, Casey, you suck. It was a barrage. And I'm like, oh my God, because they feel like they're in the game. If they can rattle you and help you. So what I used to do is when the guy was hitting, I'd always wait on, and I'd wait and usually 2 pitches would go by and the umpire would be like, hey, who's on deck? I'm like, oh, my bad. At least I got a 2-pitch reprieve from getting berated by these 30 people right here.
And they were like San Francisco fans and Yankee fans. They wouldn't just say, oh, Casey, you suck. They would be like, dude, you're hitting 143 with you suck. Like they were smart fans.
Your high school girlfriend.
Right. Yeah. She's a tramp. Yeah. I saw her in Hustler magazine.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
No, they were and those were my fans. And so it was and I mean, listen, they built the Veterans Stadium. They put a courtroom underneath it. That's all you need to know about what they thought about the people. I mean, So and then great. Then I go to Arizona. Yeah. Which is where I grew up there. So that was a dream come true for me.
But did you ask for the trade to Arizona, or you just wanted to be traded to a contender? Or?
No, so that's its own little story. So starting, I signed a lot. I for the most part in my career, I was my own agent for the most part, and it probably cost me a couple $100 million. If you remember,
you wouldn't do that all over again. You wouldn't be your own agent again.
I probably would be. I just would have probably been a little bit more patient. I signed a 4-year, $24 million deal right after opening day of 97. And I went 17-11. I punched out 300 guys and had like a monster season. And that winter, Kevin Brown signed with the Dodgers for $120 million. Oh, yeah. And you know, I mean, it is what it is. But I'm thinking to myself, that wasn't probably the smartest move ever. And then, you know, Ed Wade was a GM and we didn't do anything and we were still bad and he and I were always kind of at loggerheads and we went, I think 97 that deadline we were actually decent and Andy Pettitte was available and we almost traded for Andy Pettitte but we didn't and blah 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 And it became a cyclical thing. And so I said, and so what I did was in 98, I did it in 99, and then I did it in 2000. I went to them in early July and I said, listen, I said, I'm not going to be an idiot about it, but if the deal comes down the pike and you guys have a chance to move me to a contender and the deal looks right, I'll be open to it. Because I had a total no trade. And,
right.
And so I don't know if you remember in 97, 97, the All-Star game was in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And it was my first All-Star game, and it was in Cleveland. And there was rumors that I was you remember that the late 90s Indians team?
I was on that. I got called up. I got called up in that 97 team. Yep. Yeah, unbelievable. Yep. Loaded.
So there's a potential. My wife and I land with our firstborn, and it was a 3-day recruiting trip. The limo driver sold us on the school districts, all the hotel employees were selling us some places to live. And I got the biggest biggest ovation outside of the Indians when they introduced the lineups. Wow. It was like, because the fans thought I might be coming there. So that was always kind of on the periphery. And when 2000 rolled around, I went to them and I said, Ed Wade and I were going at it, and I gave him a list of 5 teams. Sean and I had agreed on a list of 5 teams. It was the Yankees, Cardinals, Indians, Braves, and there was, I don't remember, Atlanta. Oh yeah, no. But anyway, there was 5 teams. And I said, and so Ed Wade calls me at like 7:30 in the morning. He said, hey, we made a deal. You're going to Cleveland. And I said, wait, what? Like, I didn't want to go to the American League because I didn't know the league. I wanted some time, but I put them on the list because I knew they were players and that they would help them up the ante. And I called my agent at the time and I said, guys, I'm not going to okay this. I can't go. I can't go to Cleveland. And so they called him. Ed Wade calls me back at like 7:30. You motherfucker, I'll fucking let you rot here. Fuck you. I'm going to let you rot in Philadelphia, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, cut off your nose to spite your face, whatever. That's fine. So he calls me back 10 minutes later. He goes, give me a list of teams that I don't have to call you back for, that I can trade you to. So Shonda did not want to go to Arizona. So I said, all right, take Cleveland off and put Arizona on there. So I go to the ballpark that day and I'm traded. And if you watch, it's funny because I didn't realize it until I saw the video. The press conference where I'm giddy. I can't do any. I'm smiling. I'm smiling so loud. And Shonda looks like we're at a funeral. She's standing behind me at the press conference because I had not told her that I included. I said, hey, we got traded to Arizona. And she
oh,
said,
no.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, this is not going to go.
This is not good.
No,
this is not good.
No. But, it sucks too because I went over there. I opened up my first start in Florida. We beat the Marlins. I come home, make my first start at home. All my junior college baseball team and all the kids I went to high school with, and everybody I ever grew up with was in the ballpark. I beat Maddox 4-0, throw a complete game. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. I go 4-0 to start, and then I end up shitting the bed. I was coming off surgery in '99, and I just tanked. And I was one of the reasons why Buck Showalter got fired after that season because we tanked in September, didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I forever feel horrible about that, But then I came back healthy in 01 and 02, and RJ and I were.
What about that, though? What about the 01-02 season? You and RJ, I mean, there was comparisons between Koufax and Drysdale of how dominant you guys were.
And listen, I'm a baseball purist. I love it. But those 2 years, nobody in the history of the game ever had 2 seasons. We won 90 games.
Yeah.
We lost back-to-back starts one time. I think I went 151 starts of 5 innings or more consecutive. And the only time I didn't was when the lights in San Diego blew out. I came out after the second inning, the lights blew out. The game was canceled the next day. RJ comes in relief to a lineup loaded with left-handed hitters because they were facing me. He punches out 16, sets the major league record for strikeouts in a relief appearance.
My God.
But it was fun because he and I were golfing every day of the year except the
really?
Oh, every day. And we were just freaking dominating people, and it was so fun.
Dude, what was he like? Because that was when I was like, this guy's an asshole.
He was hard to be a teammate. It was. Yeah. So I remember. So my first day, I'm in Florida, and I fly down the day I'm going to pitch, and he's pitching the next day. I pitch on Friday, he pitched on Saturday, And I pitch on Friday, and Saturday he pitches, and he comes in after the 4th inning, and it's nothing. And he looks down the bench and he goes, "Let's fucking go, swing the fucking bat, this is fucking bullshit," like yelling, screaming. And I'm sitting next to Jay Bell, and Jay looks at me and goes, "That's why no one likes to play behind this guy." So the next day, I'm sitting on the bench, and you know me, I'm not real shy about stuff. I'm like, "Hey, dude, listen, I got to ask you." I said, "Yesterday, what was that?" He goes, "Well, Nolan Ryan told me one time, you got to fire your teammates up." I said, No, I get that. Like, I get trying to fire your teammates up, but like you were beating them like stepchildren. Like you were fucking mother. He goes, "Really?" I'm like, "What do you mean, really?" He like wasn't aware that he wasn't doing a Newt Rocky. He was being fucking, it was insane. And so it was a lot of work to be friends with him because he was, and a lot of things I understood. We went out to dinner one time in San Diego, and we're walking to the restaurant, and some lady looks at him, and she walks by and goes, "God, you're tall." And he looks at her and goes, "And you're not." And he said to me, he said, "Dude, people have been saying that to me since I was 11. It's not a compliment. It's not funny. They're just telling me that I'm abnormal." Like, he was very, and I was like, "Oh, that makes," because if you think about it, he might have been the most recognizable athlete in the world.
No, seriously, we were 6'11". Yeah,
exactly. And he looked like Wyatt Earp,
right. No, exactly. And so I said, and it gave me a little insight into who he was. And we're at that dinner. I get the other side. We're sitting there eating dinner, and the waiter knows who we are and whatnot. And he brings out this big tray of desserts, and he said, "Hey, the chef wanted you to have these compliments of him." And RJ looks at him and goes, "What the fuck do I have to sign for this?" And I'm like, "Oh, hang on." And that was, he was just socially different. And for, a lot of it was his own doing. You remember when he went to New York, that first time he's walking down the street.
Yeah, he's the camera, pushing the camera.
Goes, you know who I am? Like, oh, come on, dude, really? I mean, but I worked hard to be friends with him because I didn't care what he got from me, but I was going to get something from him, and that was that push. Yeah. And so, and I can remember a couple times just situations where a writer asked me, "Hey, listen," this was late in the 01 season, and a writer said to me, "Hey, listen," and I was at the time I won the Players' Choice Award in 01 and 02 when we all voted on that September 1st.
Yes.
And I won the Players' Choice Award both years, and he won the Cy Young both years, and rightly so. Because he went like 10-0 and struck out 600 guys.
Was there any of those years though you thought you could have won it?
Oh, listen. The 3 years that I finished second, if I didn't face 3 monumentally historic seasons, I would have won. But I lost and should have lost all 3. Santana won 13 in a row in 04. RJ had 2 monster Septembers in 01 and 02. But they asked me, "Hey, if you don't win the Cy Young, who do you?" I said, "Well, I want RJ, but of course." And they asked him that question. He's like, "Well, I want to win it." And they're like, "Well, if you don't," he's like, "No, I want to win it." And I was like, "Okay." And I'll nenever forget this. We're standing by the batting cage in 02, late. It's September 1st, and Gonzo's standing next to us, and RJ looks at me and says, "Man, I like my matchups." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you got to pitch in Colorado. You got the Cardinals twice," and Gonzo looks at me and goes, "Oh my God, dude, you're rooting against him?" And I'm like, crazy. But a lot of what his value in the game for him was based on winning the Cy Young. And listen, I would tell you, I think the most dominant left-hander that ever lived.
I think so. I think so.
No, absolutely. And no respect to Spawn or Koufax or anything.
Yeah.
But the dude was. I mean, I can remember the night he struck out 20 against.
Oh, that was against us. Yeah, against us. Thank God it wasn't. Juan Castro played first the first time. I was like, "Yes,
that's so you. Yes. That's so you. That is so you."
I didn't do it. Bob Boone did it. Bob Boone did put me in the lineup.
But you didn't go to him and say, "Dude, I want it." Yeah.
It was the one time I was like, "Yeah, Juan, good luck today, bro. You go get him."
Hammy. I got the Johnson hammy.
Hip flexor. Yep. Not feeling good.
But he got a no decision that night.
Yeah. Chris Reachman matched him. I mean, it was a good game.
And I remember he did that too. Edwin Jackson made his major league debut against us. And God, how long ago that was. and he outpitched RJ. And I remember thinking this kid's going to be something because the ball just came out of his hand. So
right.
But RJ, and there were times when so we played golf for a T-shirt. Literally, I think 96 times. I had 95 shirts. I'm not exaggerating.
He only won once.
Once. And he golfed exactly like he pitched.
Dude.
If he didn't have a good first hole,
it was over.
And you could see on the mound too, he had that demeanor. It was rare that it happened, but you could see, oh, he's done. And
yeah.
But he said something that really rang true to me. And one time he's like, listen, we were talking about demeanor, and because I felt like, God, man, you're not enjoying this at all. And you're having trouble. Like you're one of the greatest ever. He goes, listen, when I go out and go 7, give up 5 hits and 3 runs, people ask me if I'm hurt. Like I said, okay. I said, back up. I said, then just start sucking. Because if you don't want to pitch to those expectations, you don't be good. And he was, I mean, you're talking first ballot Hall of Famer, and like I said, but he wrestled with that, and I understood that. But I got so much out of pitching with him and with Pedro, and Pedro was certainly not the Pedro of '99 when I played with him, but he was still special. And RJ took it to another level, and there were times when I know the games that I had were a direct result of following one of his masterpieces and not wanting to be embarrassed.
Well, one of I think, obviously there's a lot of great World Series out there. I still think the 2001 World Series is maybe the greatest World Series of all time, just for, all of it. 2001,
9/11,
New York Yankees are in it. You guys are in it. The comebacks in New York against, Kim, just all that stuff. Like, can you take us back on what that was like, man? What was that series like? What was Game 7 like? What were the games like that you pitched, that you dominated? It was unbelievable, man.
Start with the first pitch. The first pitch too, with Bush too.
Oh, George Bush throwing the first pitch out. Yeah.
So it was surreal because we opened up in Arizona, and I start out, and I haven't pitched in a postseason game since '93 at this point, and I hit Jeter on the hand to start the game, and Bernie Williams hits a ball. He swings and hits a ball, and he's standing in the batter's box because no one can see the ball, and it floats down the left field line, and Jeter scores, and it's 1-0. The biggest hit of the series for me, the entire World Series, even with Gonzalez, was Counsell going deep in the bottom of the first off of Mussina.
Really?
He hits a home run off Mussina, and I'm like, okay, this is a 1-1 game because I ain't giving up another one. We end up clubbing them like 9-1. RJ goes up the next day and just dominates. And they're hitting like something as a team when we go to New York. If you're a baseball fan and you don't like the Yankees or the Diamondbacks, that World Series happened exactly how it should happen. We won the 2 in Arizona, 3 epic games in New York that just totally energized the city.
Epic games.
Epic games. And then we come back, and the biggest crime in the history of sports, Andy Pettit's tipping all of his pitches in Game 6. And we have everything, and we beat them like 55-2. And RJ goes 7. It was the only time I ever saw him.
Do you remember Pettit what he was doing?
Yeah. So when he was going fastball, he was at his chest, and when he was throwing his breaking ball, he was at his belt with runners.
Oh my gosh!
So we just teed him up, and so before that game, I do an interview with Kevin, who was the manager, the former manager.
Kevin Kennedy.
Kevin Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I said. He says to me, what do you think? I said, what do you mean? He goes, how do you feel about this? I said, if we win Game 6 tonight, I guarantee you we will be World Series champions. He's like, what? I said, yeah, we'll be World Series champions. I guarantee it. So they go over to the locker room and ask the Yankees, and Jeter's like, what do you expect them to say? And Mike Stanton's like, that bastard. So about the 5th inning, when it's like 10-1, I'm like, oh my God, I'm pitching Game 7 of the World Series tomorrow against Roger Clemens.
Oh my God.
And you have to go back. In 1991, Roger Clemens basically turned my career around. Shut up, guys. My God. I was in the weight room in Houston, and Roger Clemens calls me over, and for 45 minutes, he just undresses me.
Really?
It was phenomenal. phenomenal. And I was so engrossed in it that I missed my exit driving home. I totally wasn't paying attention driving. I was like, it didn't turn around that day, but that was the talk that changed my career. And now here I am, 10 years later, Game 7 against Roger, and I'm thinking to myself, wow. So
wow.
I remember when we were in New York. I think it was Game 4 or 5 that Bush threw out the first pitch. I remember him, he's warming up underneath and getting loose, and Jeter's like, dude, listen, you have to throw from the rubber.
Yeah.
He's like, what? He goes, if you step in front of the rubber, they will boo you out of the stadium. So then you had the Eagle flying down for the anthem, and he comes out full Kevlar, 70 pounds of Kevlar. He throws just a BB, perfect strike.
Perfect strike.
Place goes nuts. They come back and win. An amazing game, and we're flying back we were flying back. I'll never forget this. We're in the training room after Game 5, and they've just come back for the second night in a row and beat us. And I'm thinking to myself, guys, I'm in the training room. I go, if the plane wrecks and crashes on the way home, it won't be more surreal than what we just watched. What just happened? There's nothing that could ever top this. We were laughing about it, like, oh my God, there's just no way this just happened. And that was when the media was like, what about Mystique and Aura of Yankee Stadium? And I was like, Mystique and Aura are 2 strippers in a nightclub down the street. We don't play with Mystique and Aura. And so he crushes them. But I remember going out Game 7, what I can remember, first of all, I'm on the bench, and our bullpen catcher, bullpen catchers are every bit a part of the team as anything.
Oh, big time. And the best BP throwers too.
Jeff Matuzis is our bullpen catcher, and he's sitting next to me, and there's 60,000 people in Bank One. And I look over, and he is sweating profusely. And I in my mind, I just kind of had this conversation with my father. And the conversation kind of went like, I was nervous, and my father's like, what are you nervous about? And I'm like, well, it's Game 7 of the World Series. He's like, it's 60 feet 6 inches. You're going to go out and do the same thing you've been doing for 20 years. And tomorrow you're going to take the kids to school, win or lose. And I was like, kind of just calm down. I look over, Tuz is sweating. And I'm like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? He goes, you're not scared? You're not nervous? I said, bro, you're going to warm me up and sit on your ass for 9 innings. What are you nervous about? So we're walking to the bullpen, and the stadium is
That's why you're the bullpen catcher. That's why you're the bullpen catcher.
The stadium is literally like vibrating as we're walking to the bullpen, and I can feel it. And then the thing I remember is I strike out Jeter. O'Neill hits a ball in the gap and gets thrown out at third base on a phenomenal relay. And at the end, I was in a mental place for 2 years that I never ever could repeat, and I was so locked in. And the only time I can remember kind of getting off my thought process, I'm walking off the mound after the 6th inning, and we're up 1-0, and I've only faced 18 hitters, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to face 27 hitters in Game 7 of the World Series. How fucking cool is it? And then next inning, I fucking blow the lead. And Soriano hits a fucking ball.
The homer.
That pitch was unreal. That was a great pitch, dude. I'm a Yankees fan.
It was almost exactly what I was after. And it wasn't just that he hit it, but if you go back and look, he crushed it.
Oh, yeah, but it was low. It broke so fast. Sorry, Case. I'm a Yankees fan. I was like, how the fuck did he hit that fucking pitch? I don't know. Sorry.
He had a monster bat, and he flipped it. He ends up hitting the home run. And hang on a second. I got to turn my wife's phone off. Yeah. So he hits the home run, and it was weird because, usually you'll turn around and follow the ball. For some reason, I turned to my left and to go around and look at it. And out of my peripheral, I see Mariano Rivera getting up in the bullpen, taking his jacket off. And I'm thinking to myself, I just fucking lost the World Series.
Oh, my God.
Because Mariano Rivera hasn't given up an run in postseason since Moby Dick was a minnow.
That was 2000, what? 2001.
Right.
97, 98, 99, 2000.
If you remember, I don't know if you've ever read any of the books about it, but they were talking about the pregame of Game 7. Mariano stood up and said something, and everybody was like floored. He was like, listen, whatever happens here, it's in God's hands. So, and everybody was like,
yes.
Wait, what?
And it was 2001, 9/11, everything.
Yep.
Greatest World Series in history.
So then, they get another runner on. Miguel Batista comes in, gets an out. RJ comes in relief. I'm sitting on the bench. I didn't watch the game for years after that. I don't know why, but when I did watch it, the thing that blew me away, and if you go back and watch, you'll be stunned by it. The time frame of the bottom of the ninth is literally like 5 minutes. That whole inning happens in like less than 5 minutes.
Really?
And, oh my God, because it was all early pitches and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And I remember I'm sitting on the bench behind RJ, who, he's a better, door than a window. And I'm looking, watching the game. Gracie gets the leadoff single.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I got to sit here now. So I'm watching the whole game, like watching through, we do the bunt and he throws it into center field. The whole play. And by the way, another thing, if you watch it, David DeLucci running to second aggressively is what you teach little leaguers. If he doesn't do what he did there, he's safe. He's out. But Mo makes an error, which, oh my God, that never happens. And first and second, Miller comes up and bunts, and Mo takes the ball, throws to Brocious, who catches it, and you have to think that their bad defense played into this because Jay Bell's running, and Jay Bell is the slowest white man to ever play professional baseball.
Right.
And
I might be.
And no, he was slower than you. And Brocious catches it, and Jay Bell's not 10 feet out of the box. Easy double play. He holds on to the ball. First and second, now he hits Counsell, bases loaded.
That's right.
Yep. Midre Cummings or Womack comes in, or no, Womack comes up and hits the double.
That's right.
Midre Cummings ties the game. Counsell gets hit, loads the bases. Here comes Gonzo. Flashback to spring training that year. Jerry Colangelo says at a team dinner, this season's going to end. Gonzo's going to hit a grand slam to win Game 7 of the World Series.
Stop it. Stop it.
I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And you remember Gonzo had like 57 bombs that year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, oh my God. And he doesn't, but it all if you go back and watch that inning, it's literally 5 minutes. It happens so fast. And I was privy to, Mo only blew like 2 saves in his life, much less.
Yeah, right.
And I was there for in 04 when he did it against us, Billy Miller.
That's right.
And in 01.
And 01. Wow. Yeah. Two spots. So you win listen, I just want to say, bro, for a hitter, a guy that played I played 12 years in the big leagues, faced a lot of great players. When we go into Arizona and you'd see, oh man, we got Johnson, Schilling, and this is going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. I just want to tell you, bro, when I faced Randy Johnson, I knew I was facing a Hall of Famer. And when I faced Curt Schilling, I knew I was facing a Hall of Famer. I just want you to know that from the player's point of view, because one thing about you, bro, I was like, holy shit, he's trying to get me out of here in 3 pitches. He's going to go heater, split, or heater to get me up because the 12% rule, bam, there's strike one, and then split. So, go back to those years, man. You guys were two of the greatest to ever play the game.
Thank you.
So you win.
And honestly, Sean, when just to talk about the Hall of Fame for a second, when people ask me for it, the whole process became a nightmare about 6 years ago, when the media did what they did and said the things they said. But I've told, well, whatever. 10 years ago. Hall of Fame or not, I still have my rings, I still have my trophies, and I still have the respect of the men I played for and played against.
Right.
They're not taking anything away from me. They're not. Right. And now if I get in through the Veterans Committee,
which you will,
God bless them, I'll have gotten into the Hall of Fame without jeopardizing or sacrificing who I am and what I am.
Yeah.
To people who are every bit as flawed as anybody. I mean, listen, you and I played big leagues. We were on the road. We saw writers on the road, and they were every bit as sinful as anybody in the game. So for them to be character judges is kind of a joke. And honestly, they shouldn't be voting on us anyway. Yeah. They are in no position. Most of them never competed at a sport in a level to understand. They can't have there's no concept of how hard the game is to them. And other than, I got to work every day. Well, yeah, you got to write about what other people go out and do. I mean, let's ease up on that whole work thing. But the fact of the matter was, the sport's too hard for people that don't understand it to be voting on what should be the pinnacle of a lifetime. But it is what it is. And so,
I think the good thing, Shill, is that I think it's going to get done with it. I think with the new committees, the players, the veterans, I think things are going to change. Curt Schilling is going to be in the Hall of Fame. And what hat will you wear if you go in or when you go in?
Probably a Diamondbacks.
Really?
Just because a couple things. The men that own the Red Sox are really, really, really bad people. And what they did to myself and my family in my final year will never, I've forgiven them, but it'll never be forgotten. And Philadelphia, I thought about it, but I grew up in Arizona. And I was part of the first World Championship in any profession in the Arizona sports history. And so there's a lot of deep personal meaning to me. And Philadelphia's got like 15 Hall of Famers already.
Right. Arizona doesn't have to. Randy RJ went in Arizona.
Yep,
Okay.
Yep. And that would be cool. Yeah. So, off the top of my head, that's what I'm thinking. But, and I got to tell you, the tragedy, if there is a tragedy in all of this, is the people in my life that have gone on and passed on who deserve that day if it happens. My mother-in-law, one of my Little League coaches, the guy who I was going to have introduce me if I ever made it. These people have passed away and will never get to share in that experience. And that to me, because the Hall of Fame is not about a tablet of statistics. It's about the mountain of people that created the foundation that you built on to be who you are. Again, my father, my parents, my wife's parents, my Little League coaches. I still talk to them. We just had a reunion with my junior college team, 25 years. They're still very important people in my life, and without them, none of that happens. And acknowledging that if that day were to happen, Roger Clemens is a major reason why. Regardless of how you feel about him for the Hall of Fame, I wouldn't be up there. If I get up there, I wouldn't be up there without him. And saying that and being able to again recognize the pitching coaches, the Johnny Padres, the people that that fans don't know, that you and I know, none of it would have ever happened without them. And most of them were my Little League coaches and those people who just were so influential. I lost my father when I was 21, and I spent probably my whole career looking for that. I always gravitated to the John Vukoviches of the world because I needed that guy who wasn't going to bullshit me. The Dallas Greens of the world. I had no problem playing for a guy like Parcells or Belichick. I would have loved, because I knew I was going to do my job. I wanted to play for a guy who was going to make sure everybody else did theirs as well. Right. And so I loved the disciplinarian because he was never going to be mad at me. I can remember going to Tito a couple different times and saying, listen, before the season, we're a young team. If we're doing stupid stuff, you can use me as a sounding board. If you want to yell at me in front of the team and dress me down, because if you dress me down, then nobody in the locker room should feel comfortable. And things like that. But I knew that was my role. And when John Farrell, who was one of the best pitch coaches I ever had in my life.
Yeah, love Johnny Farrell.
He came to Boston and we had the spring training meeting. I said, listen, before you say anything, I don't need a friend. I need a pitching coach. I said, I need you to tell me A, B, and C. I need you to be honest and straight with me. I need you to tell me when I'm doing something wrong. I need you to tell me if I've done something stupid or I'm doing, you don't have to worry about kid gloving me. And I heard him talk years later about how important that conversation was to him. It made me feel good because I wanted success for them. And it's funny because I noticed that picture of John Lester on your wall from his no-hitter.
Oh, yes, no-hitter, yeah.
And John was one of the young guys who came up when I was here. And I just, John Farrell, but I mean, like I said, people talk about the fact. It's funny because, I learned early on in my career, I went to Arizona, and I remember when I got to Arizona, there was an article the day I got there in the paper about this guy, Dan Bickley, wrote an article about Matt Williams and how Matt was an asshole because he never talked to the media. And about a month later, but that same guy a month later wrote an article about how I was an asshole because I never shut up. And I was like, okay, I was like, hey, how do you play both sides of the fence and sleep at night? I mean, you think Matt's a dick because he doesn't talk to you and I talk too much? What? I mean, first of all, are we here to serve you? Number one. I said, but that was I never played that game. You asked me a question. If you don't want an answer, don't ask me because I don't have a lot of yes, no answers in my book. I'm very passionate about what I do and what I say. And if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer.
Yeah.
Politics began. I am who I am. I'm a conservative. I'm proud of it. I know my country's history. You know, if you want to have a debate on ethics or talk about, you know, the Middle East situation, I'll do that with you as much as I will talk about hitting with runners in scoring position. And who
you can go. You're a man of multi-talented. You can go.
Well,
you can go many different directions.
That. You think about that. Writers hate that. I mean, you know, you got guys like Dan Shaughnessy, and I realized this late in my career. You've got guys who went to school for a journalism education, spent $150,000 for a degree. They're making $68,000 a year standing in a locker room in front of a kid from the Dominican who's making $15 million a year, barely speaks the language. And they're pissed off about it. It's not fair to them. And it's like, you know, you better accept the fact that we are what we are before you come in this locker room, because, you know, writers have lost their way in a sense. They in the last 20 years, writers have gone from reporting the news to trying to be a part of it. And that's a very dangerous thing in all walks of life.
So when you go back, though, to your time in Boston, you mentioned a couple of guys in Boston. I want to go back to this. Just the last thing I want to touch on is that 04 team. Because, you know, you go back to the 01 World Series, maybe the greatest World Series ever. Then you go back to the 04 team. You know, you'll go down in the history because of the way you pitched. Right. You know, the bloody sock game, down 3-0 to the Yankees. You guys are the only team in the history, I believe, of professional sports. I don't know if it's to this day.
Baseball.
Just baseball. Okay, to come down 3-0 and win 4 against the Yankees. Like, what was that like, though? That team, that whole, you know, the whole thing that you guys pulled off in Boston. And, you know, like I said, that team to break the curse and all the things that you guys did will go down as one of the greatest ever.
Well, so to start off, you know, brush away all the eyewash stuff. What a sickeningly talented team.
Yeah.
Right? We had a batting champion hitting 9th. Yeah. And we had Manny and David in the middle. I mean, it was the depth of that team, the talent of that team was only surpassed by the roster in New York. I mean, when you look at their roster, it was like, oh my God.
Right.
A-Rod, and that was a joke. But we had something they didn't, in the sense we loved and cared very deeply about each other. And that serves itself. I always say the best teams win the World Series. I don't care. The best teams win the World Series. And you realize then why? Because we're down 3-0, and Tito and you know, we were talking in the locker room after the 3-0, and one of the things that I said, really?
One of the puppies.
He's excited about the World Series. That's a big World Series.
One of the things that I said was, listen, this is not, you know, it's where I tried to define focus. I said, you know, we don't have to win 4 straight. We don't have to win 3 straight, 2 straight, or we don't have to win the game tomorrow. You got to win the top of the first. You got to win the top of the first. I said, if we, as a 25-man team, if every one of us focuses just on the job that we are assigned to do in that minute, there's no chance we can get beat. None. And I mean, we went to the 9th the next night and won. I mean, but it was we, for 25 guys, after we were down 3-0, we won 8 straight. Wow. And it was the most focused I ever saw anybody. And if you remember, we went into that Cardinal team was no joke.
No, they were good.
Walker and Edmonds and Pujols and McGuire and Renteria. And we and the thing was, coming back and beating New York, Game 7, like, we weren't nervous. We knew, like, there's no pressure. All of the pressure was on them. All of it. And then, you know, they throw a guy out in the bottom of the first, and then David goes deep. And it's like, okay, we're fine. And then we're up like 10. Kevin Brown's throwing pus, and Vasquez comes in and gives it up and whatnot. But that was our World Series for the most part, because I'll never forget, we went, after we won that series, in New York, by the way, which was a blessing.
Crazy.
We're in the pregame scout. I would go sit in the pregame scouting meetings for a series, you know, just to get some word from the advanced guys that had seen these guys recently. And we're sitting in and no disrespect at all to the Cardinals. And it happened again in 07 with the Rockies. We're sitting in there going through their lineup, and their lineup is pretty impressive. And then we go through their pitching, and I looked at Tech, and I'm like, this is not about whether we can win the World Series. I don't think they can beat us 1 game.
Wow.
Because, well, they didn't, if you think about it, in October, swing and miss pitching wins.
Yes.
They didn't have anybody on that staff because if you remember, their ace went out before the postseason.
Carpenter. Yeah.
The only guy they had that could throw the ball and make you swing and miss was Dan Herron, and he was in the bullpen.
That's right.
They were throwing Woody Williams at us game one. And again, no disrespect to these guys, but if you couldn't make that Red Sox team swing and miss, you were done.
Your lineup was so loaded. It was loaded.
Ridiculous because this was a sabermetrically driven team. If they didn't hit a double, they walked.
Yeah.
And and there was no let up. None. We had, again, Bill Miller hitting in the 9-hole.
Right.
Out loud. I mean, and it was, and our bench was deep, but it was a 25-man roster. And you just realized that everybody played a part throughout the entire year. And when it came down to crunch time, I mean, before game 5, we all did a shot of Jack Daniels,
right,
in the locker room. But you know what was awesome? Stories that people don't know. So before game 4, we watched Miracle.
Oh yeah, with
right?
Kurt Russell. Yeah.
Yep. So we did it again before game 5. We did it again before game 6, and then before game 7, we watched it, and fucking Jim Craig called Theo Epstein on the phone while we were watching it.
What? No way.
Yes. Huge Boston fan. It was awesome.
Awesome. That's so great. That's so great. Shill, when you go back though, I know we talk about. I just have to ask you about it because obviously we talk about. Hey, I can't tell you how many games I played through with a hammy or a hip flexor or all that stuff. And everyone knows the bloody sock game or whatever. But what like how did you end up getting through that? Because you had to have surgery, right? There was a surgery that had to do with a tendon. Like, can you just talk through that? Like, were you just saying, I'm not going to miss this game? Like, no, you got to figure this out?
It was, as a Christian, it was one of the ultimate days of my life in the sense that I'll tell you a quick story, and it's probably a good place to end on it, too. So I went out for game 1, and I was trying to go solo, right? I mean, we did all this stuff for days after because the tendon ruptured the last play of the Anaheim series that I pitched when Garrett Anderson hit a slow roller up the line. I went to throw it to first, and I jumped, and my tendon popped. And so we went over to the hospital right across the street from the stadium, got X-rays and everything, and everybody. And this was an ongoing problem. This had started in spring training, and I was getting injections in my ankle the entire year. During the game. And eventually what happened was the joint became so flaccid that it just stopped pulling itself together. But I got my butt kicked in game 1. And I don't know if you remember, but before the series, I went to the meeting. I said, I can't think of anything more enjoyable than making 50,000 people from New York shut up. And I go out in game 1 and get my ass handed to me. And it was horrible. And so I'm done. The night before game 4 or 5, the doctor comes in and says, hey, listen, I went down to, I don't remember where it was. He said, and I practiced up on a cadaver last night. I think there's something I can do.
What?
I was like, let's go, baby. So he does the whole procedure. I walk around. It's okay. And again, I became I was born again Christian in 1997. And my faith is a very, very instrumental and big part of my life. And I'll never forget it. So it was, our chaplain had pregame Bible study, and I had to miss it because I was getting ready for the game. I said, "Well, just hang out. I want to come up and just get a moment with you before the game." So I walked upstairs, and I sat down, and this is probably 7:05 game. It's probably 4 o'clock. I sat down, and the tears just started coming. I was like openly weeping. And he just sat there quiet for a couple minutes, and I caught myself, and he goes, what's on your mind? I said, I feel guilty about trying to come to him for help when I haven't been coming to him consistently for a long, long time. I said, he said, that's not up to you. That's not up to you. He said, you go out and do what you do, put your faith in him. And people talk about, oh, God wanted the Red Sox to beat the Yankees. No. And my pregame prayer on the mound was the same. I prayed for the strength to compete, and I wanted the chips to fall where they fell. wherever they fell. So it was, and I was bawling uncontrollably because the guilt. I just felt horrible. And when I said my pregame prayer, I said, God, just give me the strength to do what I do. And if it's not in the card, that's fine. I just want to compete because this is what I was brought here to do. This was the game I was brought to Boston.
Right.
And so I tell people, there was nobody on this planet more relaxed than I was during that game. If you you'll see a couple different times if you ever watch the game. I'm coming off the mountain. I'm just smiling. I'm relaxed. Because I was competing and I was allowed to do what it is that I did. And we ended up winning. And, I remember after the game sitting in front of the media saying, I just wish people could experience what just happened to me. And like half the media rolled their eyes. Right. Fast forward to game 2 of the World Series. Same thing. I go upstairs. I sit down. I start crying. I'm like, I can't do this again. I can't. I don't feel right. Like this is not fair. I can't just come. He's like, hey, again, it's not up to you. You go out and do what you do, and he'll let things fall where they fall. There was a moment in game 2 of the World Series, and I'll end with this.
Yeah,
I'm on the mound, and Reggie Sanders is on second base, and Mike Matheny's at the plate, and I come set. I look back, and I go my windup, and Reggie takes off, and I throw the pitch, and Matheny fouls it off. And as soon as it happens, I said, okay, I'm going to spin to second on this next move. Done it a million times. Come set, look back, pick up, go. Reggie takes off. Jason didn't even call pitch. I throw the pitch. Jason's like behind the plate, like, what the fuck is going to happen here? Matheny hits a line drive to Bill Miller, standing at third base, who catches it, tags Reggie Sanders for the double play to end the inning.
Oh my God!
If you watch the video, I'm walking up and down laughing. I'm laughing, thinking, okay, big guy, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I'll take it. Yeah,
yep,
in your hands. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, yo, that's unbelievable, man. Dude, this has been so great, man. I can't thank you enough for coming on with us, man.
Pleasure.
To go down memory lane, brother, from you starting it out with the lessons you learned from your dad, all the way to winning 3 championships and on your way to Cooperstown at some point here, man. We can't thank you enough, man.
All right, next time I'm on, Ted Williams and Deion Sanders, two amazing stories. All right,
we'll do it again.
All right,
we'll do it again. Okay,
it's
Shill.
always a pleasure, man. God bless you.
Thanks again, man. You too, brother. Take care. See you soon, buddy.
Take care, Rich. Yep.
Good luck to those puppies.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wait.
He's bringing a puppy.
Oh, wait.
He's bringing a puppy.
Oh, shit. Where's the other 9? Yes.
Yes.
Who is that? Who is that?
This is Tyrion.
Are you adopting Tyrion?
No, he's the run for the litter, actually.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Beautiful dogs, bro.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well,
all right.
Tyrion's keeping you up at night. I'm sure you're changing poops in the house.
And they're white and clean, so clearly somebody's giving baths to these dogs, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God. Hey, Shill, tell Sean that I said hi, and
I will.
Hope she's doing well, man.
Thank you. You guys
Okay,
take care.
brother. Okay, man. Thanks a lot, Shill. See you, buddy.
Take care.
Okay. Man, Chinch, there's a lot of history in that conversation. A lot of, some of the greatest players of all time, played with Schilling, and, to talk about Randy Johnson, to go back to Pedro and the 04 team, the 01 team. Terry, one of the things I wanted to touch on by the next conversation will be the Ted Williams story, Deion Sanders and Terry Francona. I wanted to see what was Tito like as a manager in Philly and Boston. So
I'm stopping right there. First of all, this was one of the, I've been in this industry for over 2 decades, over 20 years. That was one of the most compelling conversations I've ever seen 2 athletes have in my career, doing this with a lot of people. And the number one coolest thing for me was he's like, what was it? He was like, you're not going to swing first pitch if I throw you what? That cat, you guys had a cat and mouse game, and you were like, "Holy shit, you're right."
Well,
and
what's funny is I didn't swing at the first pitch a lot. If 12%'s right, but I did swing with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, no, that's what it was.
90%.
Yeah.
I was probably 90%.
Yes, he was like, "You're gonna swing first pitch if it's running in scoring possession." And you were like, "Holy fuck!" Like, how did he know that? That's how good you guys are. That's why you guys were pro. I'm so proud of myself for playing college baseball, but we've had this conversation where I say, like, you guys know things a little different, and hearing you two guys talk about baseball today was an honor for me. And by the way, I'm sorry, Sean, you don't pump yourself up. That's Curt freaking Schilling, and he was intimidated when he would face Sean Casey when he said, "I have to get Sean Casey out." Sean, that's you, man. That's you. That's crazy.
He said some very kind things, and I guess when you look back at your career, when you get guys like Curt Schilling saying you were a tough out, and all that stuff, makes you feel good.
No, and this is why you're the sweetest fucking guy in sports. It's like you're not even pumping it up. If Curt Schilling said I was one of the toughest outs he ever faced, I'd be running around Long Island right now. Every bar, every restaurant, like I'm a bad. I got a hit off of Chris Young, the 6'6" Princeton guy, when I was 20 years old. That's all I tell anybody. And Curt Schilling's like, "I hated facing Sean Casey, dude." This is why you're the mayor, man. Go.
I love it, man.
Go.
I love it,
when this is over, I want you to go pat yourself on the back. Every fan out there, realize how good of a baseball player Sean Casey is. And by the way, also realize that you were one of the greatest interviewers I've ever worked with, and your improvement on this has been. You're the best, dude. You're the best
interview. It's a lot of fun, dude. I appreciate it, man. It's been a lot of fun, Chinch. I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait for next week and the next week and the next week. And we're excited that all the guests are kind of coming on board. Yeah. We're seeing our numbers go up. We appreciate it. If you like us, you like what we're doing, leave us a review, subscribe to us, download us, and you can find us wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube TV. So, All right, brother. Chinchy, I love you, man.
I love you too, buddy.
Stay grateful. And like Harvey Dorfman used to say, I was thinking about this the other day. Ooh. He used to say, "Be good to yourself." That's what he ate at every call, be good to yourself. So in tribute to Harvey Dorfman, be good to yourself, bro. I'll see you next week.